Welcome. This is James Stevens at the JSI Institute with the JET technique for kinesiology. I'd like to welcome you to our organic training series. We're going to be talking about 103.20, which is the Surrogate Testing Insights video on how to work with people when surrogate testing. As much as it is important to have a good physical connection with persons when you're doing surrogate testing, it's also important that they have both a good mental and a good emotional connection as well. So I'm going to be referring to my notes over here as we go through this. And as I was saying, it is important for them to have a frame of mind that is accepting when they're doing the surrogate testing. And if they don't have that accepting frame of mind, what do you think the chances are of that affecting the test scores? You're right, it will. Not always, but you'll never know when it will and when it won't. So it's important that we follow this procedure that I'm going to be outlining as a general principle so that we can always trust our surrogate testing, okay? Now, I know there are many other people who might think that, well, you can just surrogate test and it's not going to be a problem. But the fact of the matter is they can be mucking up the test scores if they have doubts or misgivings or things of that nature. Because if we're trying to get the right side of the brain to communicate with us, but then again the left side of the brain is having these types of mental harboring of doubts, then it is inevitable that it's going to happen. And you've learned enough at this point about the importance of mental conditioning to realize that when we're doing surrogate testing, there are two parties, sometimes even three, that need to have the proper mental conditioning. And it's your job to make sure that they do. And so we're going to be leading you through a process here. Now, even if the person says, well, it's not a problem, I feel comfortable with muscle testing, at least one time take them through this educational process, because there could also be subconscious belief systems that they're not aware of, that this can help dissipate the potential for that influencing the test results. And even though it does take time, as you're going to see in these videos, to properly set up a good surrogate testing scenario, it only needs to be done one time. And then at that point, once we've won them over both intellectually, relationally, and emotionally, then it's pretty much permanent. And after that point, you can be assured of good test results. So important stuff we're going to be talking about today. We use a three-part approach that I call the 3 E's, and that is to educate, provide examples, and to provide personal experience. And as we do that, we educate with the renewable flip chart, and this satisfies a person's intellectual level. And then we provide examples as a way for them to relate and be comforted by the fact that they've had common experiences that they can relate to. And then we also provide the last E, the E of experience, and that is through using the energy ball so that they have a personal experience that collectively all three of these things can help win them over. Let me give you some examples of giving them examples of that they can relate to. Like, for instance, have you ever gone to touch a metal doorknob and your magnetic charge, your electromagnetic charge, causes an instant transfer of energy? And you've probably felt that, right? And or have you ever been in love with someone and felt that subtle electricity of their touch? It's just very palpable, isn't it? Or have you ever heard of, this is actually a common experience, and I grew up in the country, and so I'm very familiar with this, is that, for instance, they use low voltage electrical fences to keep the cattle from rubbing against the fences and breaking them over. And so an interesting aspect of that is that like when I was a kid, I would get a couple of friends and I would say, you know, I'm going to touch this electrical fence, but if all three of us touch it, it's going to feel like nothing at all. And so I would get them to hold my hand, right? And I would be the one to touch the fence. And I wouldn't feel anything, and the second person wouldn't feel anything, but the third person would feel the electric shock because they were at the end of the line. And so these types of experiences that people can relate to can help them feel a little bit more comfortable about it. And as I continue to refer to my notes here, it will help me also. You can include any other examples that you may be familiar with, but again, the common experience that other people have had to help them feel a little more comfortable about it. And then, of course, having the personal experience of the energy ball, and you're going to be seeing a complete demonstration of all of this in the next video, which we call Surrogate Testing Educational. And it's educational not for you, but for the person that you are going to be surrogate testing for. And we use all three of these collectively, and what they do is they provide such a high level of acceptance that it helps to dissipate that mental conversation that can otherwise get in the way of it. And one of the things to understand about human contact is because we are, depending on the area of the body, made of anywhere from 70 to 90% water. Water is not only a conductor of electricity, but it's actually a superconductor. That's why they have those warning tags on the hair dryers to not stand in the bathtub and drop the hair dryer in there, because it will fry you. Because it's a superconductor, it actually amplifies it. So because we have such a high water content, it is easy upon human contact for energy to transfer from one person to another. Now, the strength changes when the body is affected by any energy source, not just oral statements that we use or physical contact with products under the tongue or against the thymus, but also by physical contact of another person touching us. And it's important that as you go through this, that you work with them and pay attention to what's going on for them. And one of the things I like to do is I like to have them flip through the cue cards, and especially cue card TB5, where I rely on other people's experience in my lack of experience, can help them realize that, oh, even though I may not have experienced this before, I'm going to agree to trust in another person's experience, namely you. Okay?